Hey guys, Scott here from Guitar is Great. I'm bringing you a repair tip video today. I got a new bone saddle from my local guitar store, and I'm going to use it to replace my existing plastic saddle that is really worn down. So some of the tools I'm using is a flat metal file, and then I've got 100 grit sandpaper here, and this is not drugs, this is just shavings from the bone nut, which I've been doing with a very steady, even pressure, on both ends and then in the middle. And you want to use a very flat surface. Ideally, a piece of glass is going to be best, or maybe a table saw, the table of that, something very sturdy, very heavy duty, and flat. You want everything to be as flat because this is a flat piece of hardware here, and we want to keep it flat. So I got my 100 grit sandpaper that I'm starting with to take off a lot of material. As you can see, it's a lot of material there that's come off already. Okay, so here's a close-up of the saddle. As you can see, I've rounded the edges a little bit. I've marked where I estimate I need to remove some of the material. And then I've also taken off, you can see this black mark on the edge here. Took off about a ½ inch with a jigsaw, and I just held it up to the jigsaw and slowly ran it through the blade to cut off that end. And then I've made a very ballpark mark right here along the bottom because I already know that I'm going to have to remove at least that much based on my existing saddle. So what I'm doing is I am removing a very tiny amount from the length of the saddle this way, so it will fit into the slot. I've removed about a ½ inch off of this end, so it will fit into the slot. Now I'm removing this black mark right here, so the strings are not, that far off of the fretboard. We want a nice low action if possible. And then I've also started making a very general ballpark rounding of these top edges, because what we'll eventually want is to have a nice arc or arch right there. So some of you might be wondering, well, why do I want to change saddles? One reason is because my existing saddle made out of plastic, where the strings are going over it, it has dug in big grooves, and the strings are sitting lower on the surface of the saddle than they should be. They're sitting in these big grooves that have been notched out, and I believe that that's going to affect the intonation. I believe it's going to affect the tuning, and I don't like it, and I want to get that plastic saddle out of there, and I want to get this bone saddle in there because another big reason is going to be the tone. And just a very simple sort of demonstration or explanation of the difference in tone is going to be if I take this bone saddle and drop it on this plate and we listen to the tone. Okay. If we compare that to the plastic saddle, you're going to hear a huge difference. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's continue with the sound experiment. So again, this is the sound of the bone, and this is the plastic. You can hear the bone much louder and brighter. The plastic is pretty dull. You hold it up to here and make marks on this bone saddle, so I know exactly what shape I need as far as that arc, and then also the staggering of the high E and B strings, and also the staggering of the low E and A strings to get that perfect intonation. Okay guys, so I've removed all this material, plus a bunch of material all over my hands and nose and face and the floor. But anyways, it's kind of coming along pretty well. Got my little notches cut out. Sorry for the focus. I got the notches cut out. It's pretty cool. And then the low E notches. Taken out there. Just removing this bottom material. If you can see, it's still a little bigger and taller. So, gotta remove more material from the bottom, but it's coming along very nicely. I got my flat file for these areas that have been marked off. Alright guys, well as you can see I got it into the slot. All the strings are fitting on there and staying nice and snug. The only problem is that as you can see the string height is pretty high. And I did that on purpose. I left a little bit of material on that saddle just to be safe. Now I can take the saddle back off and remove just a tiny bit more material, and we should be good to go.